Welcome to today's news on TV9. I'm Ada Show. In today's local news, the government has established a new advanced technology institute aiming to use innovative ideas from lab into the business markets, while the recent visa immigration fraud has inflicted concerns over the strict requirements of New Zealand visas. It has been confirmed yesterday that a higher than expected price will be paid by Vodafone New Zealand for its purchase of Telstra Clear. The government's launched its flagship innovation engine, the new Advanced Technology Institute, at a fruit sorting company yesterday. The new outfit aims to enhance links between science and businesses, helping high-tech firms become more competitive in the innovative markets. Christy Jha reports.
John Key and his right-hand man Stephen Joyce arrived at the quiet end of an Onehunga street yesterday. The premise was compact sorting equipment, a company touted as an award-winning example of a high-tech export manufacturer, and exactly the sort of businesses the government wants to help through the announcement of a newly established Advanced Technology Institute.
The ATI will be a critical link, as I said, between business and scientific expertise. It will be business-facing, which means it will focus on the needs of our manufacturing and services sector, and that's really got to be the key, that we turn science and innovation into something that's actually in the workplace around New Zealand and allows us to compete on a global stage.
The ATI is part of National's 2012 budget, which at the time it was announced put aside $166 million for the entity over 4 years. But Minister of Science and Innovation Stephen Joyce says exact funding allocations among all Crown research institutes are still undecided.
The funding at this stage has not been allocated, so what we've done is reserved a set of additional funding. It will pick up obviously some of the funding that's from the existing entities that come into the ATI, and we'll be talking with the Establishment Board about the areas of work that they'd want to develop further.
The ATI will have operations in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, focusing on industries with high growth potential. It will look for leadership candidates across business and science sectors and is expected to be up and running from December 1st. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Nearly 300 cases of students' visa immigration fraud have been uncovered by a random sampling of students' visa applications at Immigration New Zealand's Beijing branch. An Auckland educational institution voiced concerns that tough visa requirements may be the reason for forging fake documents. KJ reports.
For many educational institutions, international student fees is the main source of income besides government funding, if any is received at all. Hence, a steady flow of international students would be the desirable situation for most of these institutions.
In April, a new immigration policy came into effect, and we have had a decline in numbers since then, but hopefully that will pick up. It's a little bit hard to tell at the moment how that's going to go, but immigration has certainly made it more difficult for students to come to New Zealand.
According to Mr. Cleland, New Zealand has a very tough student visa application requirement compared to many other countries, which makes our neighbour across the ditch a lot more appealing. It came as no surprise when student visa fraud was uncovered a few days ago.
There's very little the institution can do in terms of documents. We're not in a position to check that, and that's for immigration. But two things, I think. One is the developing the relationship with agents. That we visit China twice a year, and we visit all of our markets at least once a year, and we try to establish good relationships with our agents so we know who we can trust and who we can't trust. And we certainly have cancelled our agreements with a couple of agents that we don't trust, but it's a matter of trying to build relationships with agents that you can trust.
The responsibility of visa fraud prevention lies with Immigration New Zealand. At the same time, Immigration New Zealand has already sent officials over to China to investigate the fraudulent cases. Kay Chow, 9 News.
Vodafone New Zealand yesterday confirmed it's purchasing Telstra Clear for a higher than expected price of $840 million. The deal is subject to government approval, but it will see Vodafone acquiring Telstra Clear's voice and database services, network infrastructure and customer base. Vodafone CEO Russell Sanders admits the merger will also mean job losses in both companies. Christy Jha has more.
After weeks of rumors and speculations, the merger deal between Vodafone and Telstra Clear finally became reality, with an $840 million sale price far exceeding market expectations. The deal will mean Vodafone acquiring a 26% share in the fixed-line business, as well as Telstra Clear's fibre optic cable network and radio spectrum. Market commentaries say the high purchase price reflects the potential for significant synergies Vodafone sees in its former competitor.
They are very strong in delivering enterprise communication solutions to the largest business customers, be they government or business. They have a great range of technology capability, as I've mentioned, be it fibre, be it IPTV, ISP. They've got great technical capability which absolutely complements our mobile capabilities.
But synergies can also mean job losses in overlapping offices, a fact Russell Stanners made no secret about in yesterday's announcement. Meanwhile, the sale of Telstra Clear marks the end of Australian company Telstra's quote overseas misadventures. Although Telstra Clear CEO Alan Firth denies the exit from a market dominated by two players is an admission of loss on his company's part.
I think both organisations have spent a lot of time looking at that and have made decisions respectively on their choices going ahead. I think a number of us have been very clear that consolidation was inevitable.
The non-competition clause in the contract means Telstra won't be able to come back in another form and compete against Vodafone. The deal is now awaiting regulatory process to conclude by the end of the year. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
A heated topic is on the rise for pet lovers. The belief that raw diets is the best option for your cat or dog is circulating the internet. Our reporter has consulted with a vet to find out whether or not raw diet is right for your pets. Keisha has more.
There are more and more people who are experimenting with feeding their pets a raw diet. But according to Dr. Jodie Birchall, vets are also seeing more and more problems related to the animals being fed raw meat and bones.
Most of the time it's to do with upset tummies. Some pets can't seem to tolerate bones, and we see a lot of dogs that will vomit, and some dogs will get diarrhoea, and constipation is probably one of the biggest things we see. Often they've been on a raw diet for quite a long time and the bone just slowly builds up and they get sort of more and more compacted, and then they physically can't poo and they're sitting there straining trying to go, and they can get to the stage where they haven't been able to eat or drink or anything for a couple of days. They need to come to the vet and have an anaesthetic and then have enemas, which is pretty unpleasant for the dog and for us as well, trying to clean them out, and they do fine after you've cleared them out, but if they keep eating the bones, then that can be a problem.
Fans of the raw diet may argue that this is the closest to the natural diet of dogs and cats. As carnivores, they don't need commercial pet food that are processed and include carbohydrates. But Dr. Birchall disagrees.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad for your pets. I'm not sort of saying nobody should feed their dog raw diet. Some dogs, it really seems to suit them. They do really well on it. All I would say is do your research. It's not completely balanced, I don't think. It's not got all of the nutrients that the dog needs to live a long and healthy life.
Under the right circumstances, there's room for raw diet. Dr. Birchall explains the reason for it with an example of her own cat.
Got animals that have chronic vomiting, chronic diarrhoea, and the owners have tried like different foods and allergy diets and things, and it's not working. Raw food's worth a go.
Raw diet is not for every pet, as the doctor recommends that all pet owners should consult their vet before changing their pet's diet to raw meat and bones. Kate Chow, 9 News.
Fats and fits is apparently on the rise, questioning if the more weight gives merrier times as a fitness trainer. Amy Chen has more.
From the first glance, Janine Nowicki is your average overweight Kiwi, but under the surface there is more. Nowicki is a fitness instructor of Big, Bold and Beautiful.
Because I was 95 kilos, and I just looked at myself and thought, well, I'm big, bold and beautiful, so I promoted that and just started, I started teaching because no one would hire me.
Nowicki started her aerobics class 25 years ago and has come a long way.
When I was 15, I was in Australia and I applied for a job as a housekeeper, and the lady said to me, I'm sorry, we haven't got uniforms big enough for you, we can't hire you. I just got mad and I wanted to get even.
It sounds alarming to their ears, but societal views may have improved over the years about those who weigh more, and in some cases, they are everyday fitness instructors. Dr. Pani Favid from AUT shares expertise on if having seemingly overweight people as fitness gurus will make a difference in perceptions about what is fit and healthy.
Our current culture equates thinness with health and fatness with unhealth, and I don't necessarily think that that's true.
9 News asked for opinion on the street, and this is what they had to say.
I wouldn't like it, personally. When I go to the gym, I look for someone who is healthy, looks healthy and presents themselves well. They look like they train themselves, because that's what I want.
I would feel, I guess, okay with it in some sense, because I guess they know what they're doing. And obviously being healthy is not always about being lean and skinny and stuff.
I wouldn't be all too bothered, but I think it's more important to see how the teacher is teaching, not how they look.
Research has shown that bigger trainers have been on the market since the late 90s. It's up to the individuals whether they will enjoy the classes and still feel motivated. Amy Chen, 9 News.
That's all for local news today. Now we have our TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to comment on haggling for coffee.
In faraway places like Tehran and New York, it's common to haggle. Haggling is part of the culture, so to speak. But here in New Zealand, Kiwis don't really like to haggle. We don't really want to confront a business over a price. But if there was an opportunity to haggle for coffee, now would be the time. Coffee prices and milk prices globally have come down in recent months, and for the foreseeable future they're going to stay down. In fact, they might even come down further. So here in New Zealand, if you go out and you buy coffee, as many of us do, and you'll see the retail prices remain very high. Starbucks, for example, which is one of the big brands at the top end of the market, you pay $4.80 for a flat white. Esquire's is the most expensive according to a recent survey. You pay $4.90 for a flat white. Whereas if you go to a student cafe, it's more like $3. So there you go. The situation is that coffee, the retail prices of coffee in New Zealand haven't come down to reflect the global price for the commodity. So why would this be happening? Suppliers say that because New Zealand is so far away, because we have this so-called tyranny of distance from the producers of the coffee bean like Brazil, we have a situation where we have to book effectively our contracts 6 months in advance, and the price 6 months ago was a lot higher than it is today, so therefore they actually have to manage that price themselves, and the price pretty much stays the same. So they like to harmonise out the price, if you like, so that the price over time will trend upwards, but global supply and demand goes up and down, and therefore the commodity prices go up and down, but you don't see that in the retail outlets. Now the situation is, as I said, that Kiwis don't like to bargain, but certainly if there was an opportunity ever to get into the bargaining situation, it would be now. The whole coffee industry has been revolutionised by the machinery that's available. You can get a flat white, you can get a long black, you can get a short black, you can get a cappuccino, you can get all sorts of different coffees, and according to retailers that we've spoken to, Kiwis are very discerning. They very much they know the coffee that they like, they know the coffee that they don't like. Also, there is high quality coffee and not so high quality coffee. You go to the place that you like, you might have a relationship with the retailer, for example, and that also might be a factor. However, the bottom line is that retail prices haven't changed in New Zealand. Now might be a good time to have a look at what's going on in places like Tehran and New York and bargain for your coffee. Times are changing.
Thank you, Julian. Now moving on to our Asian news. China has new regulations for website administrators, requiring them to pre-screen all videos, removing those regarded as violence, pornography and some swearing. The State's Administration of Radio, Film and Television said the censorship rules were a response to rapid growth in online programs in China. It said mental health of youth should be protected when they are surfing online. Youku, the country's biggest online video site, said it should not be influenced by the new move because it already employed hundreds of video shakers. However, BBC reports according to one academic, the new rules may have big effects for domestic sites with limited resources. After settling a trademark dispute over rights to the iPad name in the country, the new Apple iPad will be sold on the 20th of July in China. Earlier this month, $60 million had been paid by Apple to ProView, a Chinese firm which claimed it had registered the name in 2000. The disputes led to iPad being taken off the shelves in some parts of China, the second biggest market after the US for Apple. The latest version of the iPad would be available for purchase at authorized resellers and the Apple online store. It will also be available by reservation at the Apple retail stores. The new iPad went on sale in the US and several other countries in March this year. Due to an increasing number of China's middle class willing to enjoy movies at cinemas, there was a sharp rise in China's box office revenues last year, which has brought Hollywood funding for local partners in a bid to help them earn a pot of gold. China has strict quotas on the number of foreign films allowed in the country, so if world major studios could hunt a local partner to co-produce, the number of released movies would widely expand. Several major Hollywood film directors are getting in on the act. According to Reuters, the release of the movie Avatar in China generated $195 million, coming second after the US, and the Titanic in 3D grossed $67 million in China in its first 6 days. The first giant panda to be born in Japan has generated huge excitement in the country. However, only 1 week later, the unnamed cub died from pneumonia after inhaling its mother's milk. It was the first time the zoo's natural breeding program had been successful, and the rare birth was widely celebrated by the locals. BBC reports Japan has paid $1 million a year to lease the unnamed cub's parents from China. When the cub was found, it was not breathing. Zookeepers massaged its heart, but it was declared dead an hour later. According to experts, it is difficult for pandas to conceive naturally, especially when they are on public display. Bollywood's actress Laila Khan and several of her family members are suspected to be murdered. The human remains were found by the Indian police near her holiday home. According to BBC, 6 skeletons were found by police when searching the actress's holiday home, about 100 kilometres from the city. Police said that a man has confessed to killing the actress and her family over a property dispute. After the DNA results, the identity of skeletons would be confirmed. Laila Khan's best-known film is Wafa. The actress and her family members have been missing from Mumbai since February 2011. Now let's take a short break and we'll be back shortly.